Hey everyone, it's Sarah from Mappy Hour. Super excited to be here with Peace Cabin for our next Maker Series. Before we get started, a few notes. One is if you are on mappyhour.org and logged in, you will see the live chat beneath the video. So feel free to pop in any questions that you have for Daniel and Angela there, or over in our YouTube or Facebook. And we'll be answering them as we go through. The next announcement is if you are in any of our cities, that's New York, Chicago, DC, Denver, Seattle, or Bentonville, check out the site for upcoming events. Would love to see you in person. And then our third announcement is huge thanks to Sierra Nevada Brewing Company for supporting this whole series and helping us collaborate with Peace Cabin to make that awesome custom cushion, and just supporting our fun ideas as we, try to continue to show everyone that you can live in the city and love the outdoors. So now that I'm done with announcements, I'm very excited to introduce the founders of Peace Cabin. Hello.
How's it going?
Hello. Hey.
Doing great. Thanks for being here. First question, sorry, it was playing in the background there, is I want to ask about your connection to the outdoors.
Great.
So I think for Mappy Hour, one of the big things is we're always trying to challenge what the traditional definition of the outdoors is, especially because our community lives in cities, and often the outdoor industry doesn't speak directly to folks who live in cities and recreate in cities or around cities. So to get started, can you share your experiences in the outdoors and how you define the outdoors for yourself?
Definitely, yeah. You want me to go first?
Go ahead. Yeah.
It's a really good question, and this conversation about what the outdoors means, I think, is a really healthy one, and there's a lot of different angles to it, and we're not going to cover them all. But I think for me, it can be anything from physically being out in the outdoors, like hiking, walking. I've done a lot of sailing in my life, stuff like that. Or it can just be as simple as having a view of nature through the window. And that might sound silly, but we do not currently live in the city, but I have lived in cities. I can remember there was a time when I lived in London in the UK, and just having access to just green space or looking out the window and seeing some greenery, some nature, that is sometimes can be just as important as physically getting outside. And I can remember, particularly even when I lived in London, I remember moving locations just to be nearer to the river, so that when I walked from the tube station, that's the underground subway, for those of us not familiar, to where I lived, that I would have to walk over the bridge, over the river twice a day. And to me, that might sound silly, but that was really important, part of my daily life, because I was living in an environment where it wasn't conducive to sort of really immersing yourself in nature on a daily basis. So that's maybe my view of it is that I try to maintain both of those elements in my life.
Awesome. And there is a study, I am gonna mess it up because I don't have it right in front of me, but there is a study that shows that just looking at photos of nature can actually help you be less anxious. So even photos, that level of connection can be helpful.
That's cool.
And I know, right? It's like, obviously best case, we're out there doing it, but if we can't be, these other like small touch points are amazing.
Yeah.
So want to get to know you all a little bit better and, help people understand your backgrounds. Did you grow up with the outdoors? Was it something you found as an adult? Do you remember kind of like learning about the outdoors? How did that connection happen for you?
Why don't you answer that one?
So for me, I lived kind of in a rural area. I grew up, it was like a small town. And so I had, I think, a connection to the outdoors, but I don't think I really appreciated the connection. It was kind of a place for me to go out and maybe get some peace from where I lived. Like our house was very sort of busy and loud. And so I would walk to the creek and just relax and chill. And it was a place for reflection, but I guess I didn't really understand it then, but I began to understand my connection, I would say, after we had our first child. Um, I worked in corporate fashion and it was very busy. Um, and we didn't really have much of a balance in our life. So, anyway, after we had our first child, I spent a lot of time outside just walking her. And I was a stay at home mom then. And it could be quite lonely sometimes. So we would take walks. We lived in like a city setting, and even just like connecting with people outside, saying hello, small talk, that meant everything to me back then, which was 13 years ago, which is hard to believe. But and then we started exploring neighborhood parks and trails, and we found this beautiful rose garden that we would just walk around and smell flowers and look at birds. And I had a whole new perspective and appreciation. It kind of opened my eyes to, the potential of really sort of embracing it and spending time in nature and quiet. So,
Yeah, yeah, and the process of discovery is also really powerful, like that exploration.
yeah, it truly was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my next question I think is incorrect because it was what's it like living in Philly? And you said you don't live in the city any longer. So I think I messed that one up, but maybe we'll adjust the question to say to ask how you do balance living wherever you do live, having a company, having a family, and also making time for the outdoors.
Oof, okay, thrown as a curve.
Yeah.
Well, we don't live currently in the city. We're lucky to live surrounded by trees, and it's we're in the suburbs, and but we have lived in cities, as we said, and we've only lived in Philadelphia for a very brief period. In the actual city, we've lived here for over 10 years, but again, just sort of reflecting on what it was like to live in a city, which I remember. But Philly, I would say, for anyone that doesn't know it, there are some great outdoor resources that are available for residents of Philly. Fairmount Park, Wissahickon is an amazing resource. It's of course flanked by two rivers, the Delaware and the Schuylkill. Bonus points if you can spell that. And so just to kind of have that in a city is, it might not feel like all of a sudden I'm taking the train, I'm out in the mountains. You've got to go a fair distance around Philadelphia to get to any of that. But even that is not that far away if you're really intrepid. Getting out to sort of more Western PA is beautiful. So it does have a lot of I think really good resources for urban folks located in urban locations to experience the outdoors. The Wissahickon is hugely popular, and so yeah, I'm trying to remember exactly how you rephrased the question now. But
How do we balance all of it?
How do we balance all of it?
I don't know that we do.
Yeah, we probably don't. Truthfully, yeah.
Right.
I think some aspects get more attention at different points in the day, week, hour, whatever. I think we're very mindful of that, though. So, if let's say we have quite a few pets here, so if we realize that one is very needy, we just have to stop and spend time with them. With the kids, they're old enough to, they communicate with us about their needs, which is amazing.
Sometimes.
Yeah. So we can be there when we need to. And we're always, at their disposal really, because we work from home. So, yeah, and we like to go camping together. So that's a really wonderful way to stay connected, which I think is super important.
Yeah. Camping has been really, and I would say having a dog. We got a dog, like a lot of people, we got a dog during the pandemic. We're proud to say we still have the dog. We still love the dog.
Yes.
But having the dog has definitely brought a lot of balance. I think, everybody had to experience working from home. Sarah, I know you work for yourself all the time, as do we. And, it can be important and hard to sort of find a schedule and a rhythm so that you don't just work and work and work.
Mhm.
And, so I think I can say for us, getting our dog has
Mhm.
been pretty helpful in that regard, because it doesn't understand when you just want to keep doing the thing that you probably should be doing, and it forces you to get up and get out. And then, yeah, as Angela said, camping and camping is sort of was partly the gateway to how we started this brand in the first place. We'll talk more about that later, I know, but and it's
I mean,
still
honestly, it's an awesome transition because that is my next question.
no,
How did you start the brand?
yeah, and I think that's proven to be something that we were lucky to already have a camper in our life, a camper van in our life, from our previous time working in corporate, which is a different experience than working for yourself, as I'm sure lots of people on here may know. And so that's been a luxury for us, truthfully, to have that. And when it's sitting there staring at you, it's kind of like, right, well, we need to use it. So we do. And we don't get out as much as we would like, but we're very lucky to have that. And
Yeah.
it doesn't require a huge amount of planning, right? Like, it can be simple or it can be complicated, and everything's right there. And, sometimes we'll camp and we'll really plan it out, and there's a lot of thoughtful cooking that happens, and then sometimes we order pizza. So it's it's whatever works. And I think it doesn't matter. I think we don't try to be sort of hardcore, sort of outdoor, we're going to always do it the sort of authentic way that maybe is presented as how you should be existing in the outdoors. I think, to go back to what you were saying about just appreciating and existing in the outdoors in any way that you can. It's okay to go camping and cook an awesome meal over the fire, and it's okay to go camping and have pizza. I don't think it really matters.
No pressure.
Pizza is actually a fan favorite on Mappy Hour camping trips, just like cold
There you
pizza for breakfast.
Yeah, love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's always a good one. Awesome. So yeah, let's do the transition. What's the origin story with Peace Cabin? How did it come about? Did you dream it up one day? Is it a plan that's been happening for 10 years and finally you had the chance to do it? What's the story here?
Do you want to start, or do you want me to start?
Yeah, you start.
Okay. Well, there's a lot of avenues to this answer. And I guess we could start with some background. But so Angela and I met both working in menswear, in fashion. We're both designers. And I was still doing that. And I had done that for 20 something years. I honestly don't remember. And I was just really at a point where I wasn't excited about, kind of menswear for older gentlemen, shall we say. And I was also not really trying to keep up with everything that comes with trying to make clothing for the average sort of 18 to 21-year-old or whatever. So I found myself at a point where I needed to do something else, and that happened to coincide very shortly afterwards with the beginning of the pandemic. And it was a pretty stressful period, I'm not going to lie. But out of crazy moments, sometimes great opportunities can come. And I think that originally we kind of kicked around the idea of doing more of like a design consultancy, and I think we pretty quickly realized that was a pretty crowded space and was going to require an awful lot of legwork for not maybe much return initially or for a while. And I can say, for me at least, I'm a maker. I've got to be making things with my hands. And I'm not sure if the pictures showed this that we shared, but a few years prior, I had built this cabin in our backyard, and I don't really know why I built it. It just kind of needed to come out, right? And so I was working in this corporate environment, and it just didn't really feel like creative anymore. And so that's kind of what came out. And I think that for me, I kind of found myself maybe at the same point during the pandemic, and just sort of feeling like I really need to show something more physical of what I'm feeling and what I think could be interesting, and just see what people's response is. And so, like a lot of folks at that time, and certainly people are still doing it, we put something together. It was just, we threw a sheet of plywood on a couple of sawhorses and got some books out and ordered some fabrics. And my mom had given us this old sewing machine of hers, and we just sort of started messing around, and we came up with this cushion idea, and it certainly has evolved. And then it was kind of like, okay, well, will anybody beyond our friends buy these? And then we started to get messages from people we didn't know, and we're like, oh, who are these people? Like, is this real?
Are you want to buy this?
So it kind of was that. And I have to give some credit to a friend of mine from who lives in London, who I've known a long time. I went to university with, and I was talking to him at that point. There was a lot going on in our life with the pandemic, and I had some immediate family health issues that I was trying to process, which were not great or fun either. And our kids were suddenly homeschooling, and we really needed to find a way to make a living, and it was really a lot. And in conversation with him, he sort of said to me, I think you need something to just focus on and not feel like it could all be this or that or so broad. And I think we were just bouncing around ideas. And since you asked, like, has this been an idea long in the incubation, I would say really no. I honestly never thought that we would do something like this, and I don't think that I ever sort of sat there and thought, man, I really want to start a cushion brand. It's just kind of what came out. And I think we got lucky that it felt differentiated, and we've had a good response to it. So yeah, I mean, I'll probably pause at that point, but that's a lot.
Yeah.
Kind of where it came
from. I don't know if this sounds like hokey, but it almost sounds like there was like this crucible moment where there were all these like pressures and stresses happening, and like, that all like kind of creates something new from it. Because it all like aligned at that one time to like, yeah.
It definitely feels like that for sure. And for me, I was staying at home we have 2 daughters. I was a stay-at-home mom for a while, and I was starting to think about, what's next? What can I do? What are my skills? I wanted to do something creative, or just get back into the workforce, because they were both in school full time. So we talked about, first the consultancy thing, which interested us. And then Daniel had these ideas, and it was like the incubation period. So a lot of conversations and development, I think. Yeah. And
it did just kind of happen.
It did just kind of happen, but there was so much talking and debating, and what we decided that, how we would split the division, like the labor, and who would be responsible for this and that. And to be fair, he did ask if I wanted to be a part of it, and of course I did. So now it's kind of,
do you still?
It's pretty divided, I would say, down the middle now. So yeah, I was ready for a change, for sure.
I think that maybe goes back to one of the questions that we kind of adapted as we went along. It's just like, how do we balance this? We're married, we're partners, we're parents, we have this business. Maybe not a lot of people will know this reference, but I was listening to this interview this week with a British 90s dance duo called Everything But the Girl. Some people may know them, some people may not. And they were talking about how they haven't made an album for like 20 years or something. And basically their argument was, that they were a couple, and that they were parenting, and that was enough things under one roof. And I kind of laughed out loud when I was listening to it on a walk, because it's like, wow, it is a lot. But I think, what Angela's saying about, it's been, in a way though, it's kind of elevated our relationship, because it's forced us beyond just what you have to learn as parents in terms of like, who's going to do this, who's going to play the good cop and the bad cop in these different situations or whatever, or who's naturally more comfortable with this aspect of the role or whatever, that we've kind of had to do that. And I think that we've found skills and strengths that I think truthfully neither of us knew that we even had. So, so that's been great.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Were you nervous or hesitant to work together professionally?
We weren't really.
No, blind ignorance. Just
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like all in.
Well,
but
let's go for it. Let's try it.
we're conscious of it now. It's a
Yeah.
lot. It's intense, and it would be intense no matter how it was going. But like any business, it's sometimes it's going great, sometimes it's not, and those moments can be really stressful. And I think just remembering, we went out for lunch the other day. It's our biannual lunch out. So
Congrats.
just like,
Twice a year.
just going and doing that. And even though we were kind of doing something work related, I think just remembering, for any of the small business owners listening, or particularly those that also happen to be parents, or even just one of those things, like, having time for yourself and for your relationship, and making sure that that's still good is still takes work. And but at least now we have something else to talk about. So
Yeah. We have
unlimited things now.
Yeah,
'Cause you're
it's
building
non-
business.
Oh, trust me, there's always something to talk about. Yeah.
That's awesome that you have found that balance and yeah, been able to navigate that. I think I want to take a second for, I mean, hopefully everyone who's watching knows what cabin is, but just give you some space to do like a short little pitch on what you actually make in case people aren't familiar. And then I want to dive a little bit into the product and the actual physical good. So give us the pitch.
Who's doing that?
He's obviously a better talker, so
Well,
he's going
he
to
talks more.
Yeah,
Yeah.
He likes to talk, but that's good.
Yeah, it's that
love
Irish,
it.
those Irish roots.
Little yin yang thing happening.
You need it.
Okay, so what are we? What do we make? So we make what we kind of bill as multi-use cushions, and that might sound an odd pitch. So how we kind of put more color on that would be, this whole concept started with us kind of going camping and wanting things for our camping life that didn't look like they came straight out of REI. And some of that's great, by the way. We're not knocking any of that, but like, we wanted some things that felt like maybe a little bit kind of home away from home, but still worked in that scenario. And so we started to kind of play with the concept from there. So the reason why we kind of pitch them as multi-use cushions, I think one of the big things is that our use of Cordura nylon on the cushions allows you to say, take our floor cushion and use it by your coffee table to eat your dinner while you watch TV, or to grab it and sit on the stoop if you're in more of an urban environment, or go roof bathe, or you could take it to the park or the game or the beach or camping or any of those things, right?
Yeah.
So I kind of see how I worked my way into the pitch there.
Or on your chair if you're working from home, of course. Like, we both use them for that too.
Right.
So yeah.
So that's kind of where it started. And I think, like, just to sort of spell out maybe a simpler explanation of that formula from the beginning, Angela has a background in denim design. So one of our cushions, and we still make it, is a denim patchwork with a Cordura base. But I think that we kind of realized, once we really got these things out there and really kind of field tested them, that, that there was an opportunity for something geared a little bit more uniquely to the outdoors. And that's where we developed the product that we've done custom for you guys, the Wanderer product, which is all Cordura. So you can get that thing dirty, wet.
Yep.
It floats, throw it in a river, whatever you need to do, and it's going to be good to go. Fun fact, you can put a t-shirt over it and use it as a pillow.
Yeah.
So there you go. Why not?
That is fun. Yeah. I actually think that was, there are multiple reasons I was really excited that we got to work with you all, but the multi-use piece is so important, especially for urban dwellers who often don't have a lot of space to store extra outdoor gear.
Yep.
And so, being able to use it for the home and for outdoors is just perfect.
I think we definitely give some credit to like Japanese lifestyle, folks that live in places like Tokyo, like they know small space living like nobody else. And, I definitely, I would say a big part of the roots of our brand is inspired by some of that stuff, and the way that they integrate outdoor gear into their just everyday indoor life. And, it's not for everyone. We recognize that having your camping gear in your living room might not be everybody's choice of aesthetic, but maybe in a way it also plays into this idea that hopefully this is a product that perhaps means you need less and you don't need to buy
Yeah.
a version for this and a version for this and a version for
Yeah.
this. You could take one of our products camping, you could throw it in your tote and take it to the park. You could pull it out from under the cabinet when your friend came over for dinner.
Yeah.
And if you need a bit more seating or whatever. So yeah.
Yeah, because you might not have space to store 3 extra chairs or,
Right.
whatever. So they're really great for that.
Yeah, and that's how we actually discovered you all. Was we were at Hiker Kind in Brooklyn for an event, and they had your cushions out there. So people were definitely sitting on them while they were listening to the founders speak and share their story. So we had like that, experiential touch point.
Well, shout out to Hiker Kind.
Shout out to Hiker Kind for introducing us. We love you. So you mentioned the Cordura, and I wanted to talk a little bit more about the materials because I think that they are in large part what makes this product so unique, especially for the outdoor person, but also is obviously not obviously, but it seems like it's a big part of, how you communicate your values as a brand. So if you could talk a little bit more about where you source the materials, what these materials are, and how you kind of make those decisions as you're going through like the design and production process. Would love to hear more about that.
Yeah, definitely. Am I doing this one? I'm doing this one. Are you doing this one?
I can start on this one. So as far as inspiration goes, I think we kind of touched on that. But I think we get inspiration from all over, from architecture, vintage outdoor gear, styling, sneakers for sure. I love vintage clothing myself, all sorts of vintage clothing, including costumes. And so, it all comes from that, and painting, sculpture, anything that, is creative and beautiful to the eye, and anything can inspire us, to be honest. But I think for the Cordura cushion, the Wanderer, it was all about having something that could be outside and stay outside if you needed it to, because we had a lot of questions about whether, our other cushions could be used outdoors, and we're like, absolutely, it can, but you might want to bring it in. Don't leave it out there. Yeah. Yeah. Don't leave it out. So that's where the Wanderer came from, and it's been fantastic. Right. But using Cordura is obviously it's very versatile. It's thick, and you can put it on concrete, rock, any sort of terrain. Sand, grass, of course. If it's wet, it doesn't matter. So there's longevity with that fabric. And also we use biodegradable fabrics on the interior because we didn't want to use polyfill or anything. Even though we are using nylon on the outside, we could affect what we're using on the inside. And we felt really good about using biodegradable materials because it's, I think, an offset to that nylon outer.
We try to be transparent. I think, there's an awful lot of, it's maybe harsh to use the word greenwashing, but there's a lot that goes on. And I think that we try to be transparent and truthful about how we approach the design. We've chosen these materials, as Angela said, to offset. We use natural biodegradable fillings to offset the use of nylon. But why do we use the nylon? Well, because it's going to last longer, and it's going to allow that product to be used in much more situations. And, it can still be broken down if it needs to be at the end of use, and some of it can be recycled or upcycled or, what have you. And where we're not making the Wanderer, which is all Cordura, we still try to have an emphasis on natural materials. We use a lot of canvas and denims and, really cotton-based materials when possible. But as Angela said, at some point it just made sense for us to make an all Cordura version. But I think, we just try to approach it in two ways. One, we're transparent and we're thinking about functionality, performance, durability, life cycle. life cycle can be good and bad, right? Like we talk about something that's going to be around forever. That's terrible. Well, yeah, some of that is terrible, but then is it going to be used? Well, then that's, part of the equation. And I'm forgetting now exactly the other part that I was going to say, but yeah, maybe you have more to add.
The life cycle, and then I think we're talking about the biodegradable materials
Yeah.
on the inside, which is an offset, and we feel really, really good and passionate about that. Like I said, we didn't want to use polyfill, which was, people did suggest, because the materials that we fill the cushions with are very expensive, but to us it's worth it. We do what we can to try to make conscious decisions on how we're affecting the environment. So yeah, I think maybe that was your second point.
Yeah, I mean, nobody's got a clean slate. Anybody who makes something, or anybody that buys something that isn't truly necessary, and let's be candid, a cushion is not truly necessary. Like, you have a responsibility. I think we feel we have a responsibility as creators and product generators to try to be thoughtful about it and do the best that we can do today.
Yeah.
And there is soon going to be an option to use recycled content in a Cadora. It's not, unfortunately, as readily available right now to folks of our scale in the market. But we're going to get there. And when we can get there, we'll do that. Absolutely. So yeah, not sure if that answers all of your question, but.
Yeah, it definitely does. And that actually leads really well to my next question, which was just what has been the evolution of the product line? And it sounds like part of the future evolution is adjusting to more, eco-friendly materials. But yeah, I think it's really interesting, especially for you all, because you started it pretty quickly. I'm sure there are a lot of lessons you had to learn pretty fast and tweaks you had to make to get it to where it is now. So interested in that, and then kind of how you figure out where you go next.
Well, I think that's still every day. I think you're never done tweaking it. I can, say even just working at billion-dollar corporations that, you're tweaking it every day. You're often only one quarter away from it not being a good situation. So, or at least not an ideal situation. So, yeah, we're always tweaking it. And we've definitely learned a lot. I think one of the biggest lessons that we've learned, we can say, as creatives, is that, we've had to learn really not to be designers, or maybe not be creatives. We've had to learn to be marketers and salespeople, and really polish the message of the brand and make sure that all of the touch points that we're communicating, whether that's verbally or visually, about the brand, are in alignment with what we feel are is the value of what we make. And so that's been, I think, a huge learning curve.
Yeah, I think for us, it feels like it comes naturally. I don't know, not to boast, but to be creative, that's the fun part. And that's what
it kind of is the easy part.
Yeah, it kind of is the easy part. But then there are all these other elements and moving parts to running your own small business. So, the finances, which I'm sure there's so much that's involved. So it definitely, for me, has put me in maybe some uncomfortable positions, but I've learned so much. So yeah,
definitely. And I think in terms of the product, we've got some new cushion concepts that we're working on. I think, we've had a lot of folks say, when are you going to do apparel? That's your background, or whatever. And I think, we'd like to think, we kind of joke that Peace Cabin is a state of mind, right? It's not just a cushion. And it's true. But again, as a creative, it's, especially coming from a background where we both worked for really big corporations. It's there's a lot of resources. There's a lot of people to do things. It's very easy to come up with ideas, but everybody knows that executing them and effectively is really the challenge. And so for us, I think we feel right now that, what we're known for is these cushions, and we feel like we're going to keep doing that. And we have toyed with some other products, and sometimes we've done it and we've pulled out of it because it was just a distraction. And there are certain brands that we look at that are kind of, I think, a compass for us in terms of focus. And some of those brands are in the outdoor space, and some of them are not. But it's just, there's so many brands out there today. There's so much product out there today that, it's noisy, right? So like, why do we deserve your attention? I think that we owe it to, our customer base and our audience to sort of stay true and listen to them and still provide solutions. This isn't meant to just be something whimsical that we've felt like doing. It's like, we're trying to come up with something that we think could be useful, right? And we think that we've still got a long way to go to figure out how to kind of get that to different people, including, making sure that some of the price points maybe are not as high, because not everybody wants to spend or can spend that kind of money. We totally respect that. So that's something that we are working towards. And yeah, we're excited. I think after 20 something years working in fashion, it's exciting to just do one thing. And because all the other stuff that we have to figure out, and anybody that does their own thing has to figure out, is enough really to kind of sustain the mind in terms of growth. And if we started saying, oh well, now we're going to have a line of pants or t-shirts or whatever it is, it's just for us at the moment, it's kind of more noise, and we don't think that we would do as good a job of communicating what we're really about to everyone. So I think what you can expect to see is more cushions. How about that?
Yeah.
Amazing. And I think that's really smart. I feel like most of the successful companies we see really started in a very specific niche and just like owned that niche first before expanding. And that's that focus, and that brand is really what helped them get to the next level when they eventually were ready to do it. So
Yeah.
makes total sense.
Yeah.
Cool. So yeah, I think my last question also did not prep you for this, so get ready for the curveball. We definitely hear a lot of people express interest in like, how do you start your own company, or how do you follow this passion? Because it might be something they're doing on the side, or they have this corporate job and they feel stuck in it and want to a different lifestyle. And at least for me, it's always like a very hard question to answer. So, no need to feel pressure for a perfect answer here, but like, I'm wondering if you have any advice or, just reflections maybe on that transition.
So many. And I think it's hard to answer without, everybody's situation is different,
Totally. Yeah.
and that makes it kind of a hard question to answer. But what do you think?
I think what's been important for us is having people in not even just in the fashion or design industries, but having people like mentors and like advisors, if you will,
Who can just be friends. That does not have to be something really official.
People that you trust and that, are maybe experts in what they do, or maybe just have good ideas or have been through it before, but just relying on people that you trust to help guide you through the process. Because I think, and that's not, like Daniel said, it's not people that you hire, it's just people that you confide in, right? And I think it's been something huge for us.
I think also for us, what's your kind of guiding light? Why do you really want to do this? And beyond just, I think it could be nice and I could do that. I think you've got to really have some pretty strong either values and or personal reasons why you really want to make this path work, because there's just so many moments where it looks like it's not going to be a path that you should continue to go down. And trust me, we've had plenty of those. But if you really, really, really believe in it, and if you think that your idea is valuable and differentiated, I think that is something I would stress, is just hopefully you've come up with something that there's not already a lot of things happening in that space, because if there are, I think it's going to be very, very difficult. And even with what we do, it's not like we invented cushions, right? But like, at least we have an angle to it that sort of at the moment feels like there's a little bit more room to maneuver there. I think just people that you trust, and really a reason to do it. So for us, that was like, we wanted more autonomy. I didn't want to keep working in fashion. I didn't want to keep working in corporate. And some folks in certain industries know that changing jobs maybe requires you to keep moving around. And if you hadn't picked up on it, I've lived in a few different countries, and was kind of done with all that. And so for me, those are some of the things that keep me really focused every day. Like, I really want this to work out. And, this is what I'm working towards. It's not just, the product and the idea itself. And I think just tuning into like what feels fun and easy, well, that is the safe space within doing your own thing. But like, you've got to want to do the hard stuff too, and you've got to want to push through it, right? Like, so,
like working on those financials.
Yeah, you've got to be willing to do all that stuff.
Yeah.
So you've got to really believe in your idea and want it bad enough that you'll push yourself to learn and deal with all of those things that maybe are not your fun, safe, comfortable space to be working in.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think that would be maybe some. As I say, I think it's very hard. Everybody's circumstances are different. Like, that doesn't even get into can you, should you, are you at a looking away from, like, there's so much to it. But if you are thinking of doing something, then I think those are maybe good things. And look, I'll be really transparent and honest and say, could I have told you all that when we started? I don't think so. Some of this is just learning maybe what was trying to come out, or what was the next path that we couldn't really see it, or whatever. And so it's an evolution. But again, I think you've got to have an idea that you really know why you're doing it.
Yeah, have that as the foundation.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, this is great. We're going to wrap it up. Is there anything else I forgot to ask you that you want to share about your journey, about the cushions, about what you had for breakfast, whatever you want?
It was not very exciting. I think yours was more exciting than
waffles.
Hotel waffles.
Waffles, yeah. So for everyone watching, for our tech check, we talked about breakfast, and I had waffles.
We're incredibly grateful to have this opportunity to talk to anyone that has cared to tune in and listen. And we've been honestly at times really staggered by how far this has gone for two people that started this literally in their screen porch during a pandemic. And we've ended up, getting to meet and work with some amazing people. We've got some more coming, and it's just been a really enriching experience. And, I don't doubt, obviously just meeting you, Sarah, but even just connections that could come from this conversation, that's really been the fun part of it. And we're really grateful for that. And so, thank you for
Sarah,
taking the time to ask us and have us on and hear our story and about our cushions.
Absolutely.
And whoever won the giveaway, congratulations.
Oh yeah. Thank you for that reminder. The Instagram handle is abmarried. So I will DM you, but congrats.
Congrats.
Yeah. And if anyone hasn't seen it yet, it's up on both of our Instagrams, pretty recent posts. It's awesome. I got multiple DMs of people being like, I want this. And I was like, I don't know what to tell you. Enter the giveaway.
For sure.
It was super fun. It was fun to make. It was a fun challenge. We'd never done one like that before.
That was awesome.
And we sort of feel like it's kind of a blank canvas, so you can do lots of things to it. And that was a fun way to approach it. So thank you.
Yeah, of course. Well, awesome. Thank you for sharing and being vulnerable on this chat, and your creativity and all of that. And thank you everyone who tuned in. And has just been supporting Mappy Hour, supporting Peace Cabin as we all work on growing and expanding in the outdoor industry. And then of course, thank you, Sierra Nevada, for supporting this project. And with that, good night.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Good night.